Hi, Chef Ellen back with you again to talk about something a little different today. I want to talk to you about something called cruciferous vegetables, or as they're more commonly called, brassicas. This is a category of vegetables that includes a lot of different things that you might not realize are connected in the same family. So that would include things like kale, collard greens, mustard greens, watercress, Swiss chard, all sorts of cabbages like Chinese cabbage and Napa cabbage and regular old green cabbage, Brussels sprouts, kohlrabi, broccoli, cauliflower, bok choy, turnips, rutabaga, radishes of all kinds, including an Asian radish called the Daikon radish, and then three greens that I'm going to focus on today called Komatsuna, Tokyo Bekana, and Tatsoi. These are vegetables that we've all been getting in our share lately, and some people have some questions about how to cook them. So I'm going to give you a little background and then show you what we do. These vegetables also contain a substance called glucosinolates, and these are the sulfur-producing phytochemicals that characterize these vegetables with that brassica taste, what we think of as brassica. It's actually a sulfury taste, and it's responsible for that and that sharp flavor that characterizes this whole category of vegetables. Anyway, studies have shown that the glucosinolates could reduce the prevalence of cancer, lots of different kinds of cancers. And the vitamin K content of the vegetables, especially kale and collards, is responsible for some anti-inflammatory properties. So that's really cool. And the high concentration of this vitamin C and A and manganese are key components that comprise their reputation of an antioxidant vegetable group. So when they tell you to eat your greens, you really should listen. So what are we going to do with Komatsuna, Tokyo Bekana, and Tatsoi? Let's talk about that. This is Tokyo Bekana. It looks to me a little bit like a beautiful head of romaine lettuce, but the leaves are a little bit frillier. I use it in salad raw. It's really wonderful, and I would use the whole thing. So the first thing I would do is cut off the end here and make sure that I've washed all the dirt out of the lower stems of the vegetable. And you can either chop them or tear them. You can trim off the thicker ends if you don't like that. But look how gorgeous that is. It's beautiful and tasty raw, or you could stir fry with this. And I'm going to talk about the other ones as well. When I talk about stir frying, what I want you to think about is cooking quickly. We're not going to be stewing this for many, many minutes. The whole idea behind stir fry is to quickly cook these things. A lot of times I like to think about these vegetables as spinach. You probably have used spinach many times. You don't cook the heck out of spinach. You cook it quickly. You might even steam it and you eat it raw in salads. So that's a good thing to keep in your head, a vegetable that might be more familiar to you. So if I was going to cook this, I would separate the leaves from the stems. I would just trim off the stem part. I would cook that separately because that you can cook a little bit longer. And then I would probably chop up the green part and add that at the very last minute. These greens are so delicate, they hardly even need to be cooked. If you wanted to add them, say, to a a rice pilaf or a risotto, then I wouldn't even cook them. I would just stir the chopped greens into the warm rice just before you serve it. The heat of the rice will cook the green just perfectly, not too much, and it'll be ready to serve. So the key is don't overcook these vegetables. The next vegetable is Komatsuna. And to me, this looks like a little bit like a small scale Bok Choy with maybe thinner stems. But remember, they're all related, so it's natural that they all look similar. And I would treat it very much the same way, taking off the very bottom, making sure that I've got all the dirt out of the stems. And again, if I'm going to stir fry it, I would chop my stems up into whatever size pieces I want, separate out the green leaves, and cook them very briefly. Again, cook it quickly. One of the keys to stir fry is to get all of your vegetables prepared in advance. Have them all prepped. I like to use my little stainless steel prep bowls, and I have all of my vegetables ready to go before I start cooking. I have it all lined up, and that is really, really helpful when you're doing a stir fry. The last green I want to talk about is Tatsoi. It's a very delicate green. It grows in a plant. It's actually quite beautiful. All of the leaves form like a flower, and they're really, really gorgeous. The leaves have are often different sizes, and sometimes if you go to the farmer's market and you buy a mixed lettuce package, you will find Tatsoi in the mix with some other greens like Mitsuna and things like that. And it's very popular in the mixes that you would get in the farmer's market or at the farm. My favorite way to eat them is as a salad green. They're delicious, they're delicate, they add a really lovely contrast with lettuce, and they're so pretty, especially if you would mix them with your Tokyo Bekana. See how beautiful that is? Just gorgeous. So I would suggest you try these raw, but if you want to use them in the stir fry, do the same thing. The stems aren't very long and they're not very thick, so you could just put them in whole. They're going to wilt down just like spinach, and they're going to taste actually kind of similar to spinach, but really lovely and a wonderful addition to the greens that you have available. So keep in mind, try these vegetables raw. They're wonderful raw. And if you do want to cook them, think about spinach. Steam them very briefly or stir fry them. Just don't overcook them. That's the key. I hope you've enjoyed this and you learned something about brassicas, and you'll be adventurous and try them and enjoy them. This is Chef Ellen saying thanks for joining us. We'll see you next time. Can't use that one in the outtake. Oh, why do I have so much trouble with this? What was the words? What were the words?